Welcome to a journey that will take you deep into the heart of a modern marriage, seen through the eyes of a man who thought he had it all. Hi, I'm Adrian, and I'm here to share with you the most intimate and raw moments of our unconventional marriage. This 6-part story titled, "I encouraged my wife to sleep with other men, but then she cheated," unfolds amidst the bright lights of London's hedonistic nightlife, the intense emotions of an open marriage, and the unprecedented global pandemic that changed the world as we knew it. As the chords of Oasis's "Don't Look Back in Anger" reverberate through our story, you will witness the evolution of our relationship, the moments of ecstasy, the silent betrayals, and the ultimate confession that could either break us or make us stronger than ever. With the backdrop of historical events, musical legends, and popular culture references, this story is more than just a tale of love and lust. It's a reflection of our times and the complexities of human relationships. So buckle up and let's dive deep into the depths of our emotions, desires, and struggles. This is our story, laid bare for all to see. I encouraged my wife to sleep with other men, but she cheated. Imagine a world where the line between pleasure and taboo is not just blurred, but completely obliterated. That's the world Lydia and I crafted for ourselves in the heart of London's underground. I'm Adrian, and this is our story. Let me take you back to a time before the world was gripped by chaos. A time when our nights were long, our boundaries limitless, and our hearts free from the constraints of traditional love. It all began on one fateful evening in a secret candlelit room. Chapter 1. Behind closed doors, inside our open marriage. Now I'll admit it, I've got a reputation for living life at full tilt. Evenings out at pulsating London nightclubs, the fizzing, heady cocktail of neon lights and frenetic music were all par for the course. Sexually adventurous? I'd say so. My wife, Lydia, and I were not the type to shy away from new experiences. However, something began to change, something that even the most adventurous of spirits cannot outrun: time. Our journey began on the cusp of 2020. I remember the countdown, the electric excitement, the anticipation of not just a new year, but a new decade. Who could have known what lay ahead? The throb of the speakers in the underground club where we'd chosen to see in the new year was the pounding heartbeat of our existence. It was around this time that Lydia and I decided to open the doors of our marriage, a thrilling, intoxicating leap into the unknown. It was our very own roaring 20s in every sense. We found ourselves wrapped in a maelstrom of delight and excitement, each night more enticing than the last. I can remember the first time we shared a partner, the initial awkwardness quickly melting away under the soft touch of shared intimacy. And then the first threesome, like an intricate dance guided by the primal force of desire. From the hushed whispers of bondage to the wild abandon of swinging, each experience was a thrilling page in the book of our open marriage. As the charismatic ringmaster of our own private circus, I loved the glint of anticipation in Lydia's eyes, the thrill of our shared experiences. We were Prometheus and Pandora, not merely opening the box, but flinging it wide and reveling in the wonders within. Yet as we danced this exhilarating dance, I noticed the slightest flicker in Lydia's expression, a fleeting shadow that would pass over her face in quiet moments, her laughter a little more forced, her smiles a touch too bright. It was as though she was searching for something I couldn't give her. That's the tricky thing about open doors. They let in all kinds of light, sometimes illuminating the corners of our life that we aren't ready to see. It was an unsettling feeling, like reading a familiar book and suddenly finding a chapter you've never seen before. There was an elusive longing in her eyes, a yearning for something that our adventurous lifestyle could not satisfy. Her restlessness was like a soft, haunting melody, a subtle soundtrack to our thrilling, but increasingly hollow, adventures. As 2020 unfolded, a spectre loomed over the world, the pandemic that brought life as we knew it to a screeching halt. It was as though we'd been in a hedonistic dream and woke up in a dystopian novel. The nightclubs fell silent, the parties stopped, and the city that had been a carnival of delights turned into a ghost town overnight. It was in the silence of the lockdown, the stark contrast to our former life, that Lydia's restlessness became increasingly palpable. Our roaring 20s had turned into a quiet whisper. As the reality of the pandemic unfolded, our lives reduced to the four walls of our apartment, and the high-pitched buzz of the nightly clap for carers replaced the pulsating music of the clubs. It was here, in the stark light of a global crisis, that I started to notice Lydia drifting away. I could not quite put my finger on it, but I felt it in my bones. And little did I know then that the journey we were on was about to take a turn that neither of us had ever anticipated. If you are enjoying this story and wonder how Lydia might have been feeling, you can listen to her side of the story by clicking in the link in the description.
This is chapter 1 of a 6-part short story. Stay tuned for chapter 2.
As the golden hues of the candlelight flickered against the rich velvety curtains, Lydia and I were not just spectators, we were the very essence of the show itself. Welcome back to our tantalizing tale. I'm Adrian, and this is chapter 2 of our hedonistic journey into the heart of our open marriage. In this chapter, I'll peel back the layers of our most intimate and adventurous explorations, the nights that left us breathless, yearning for more, yet questioning the very fabric of our union. Hold on tight as we delve into the world of bondage, threesomes, swinging, and the tantalizing games that brought pleasure and pain in equal measure. Chapter 2. The shared pleasure. Watching her find ecstasy with others. You see, there's something almost primal in the thrill of breaking norms, of delving into uncharted territories of pleasure, and Lydia and I seemed to thrive on it. We reveled in our lifestyle that was at once daring, exciting, and a world away from what society deemed acceptable. Our marriage was like a bountiful banquet, the flavors as varied as they were stimulating. But as with all such repasts, one starts to notice the nuances, the subtleties, and the traces of something more. The world of bondage, with its intriguing play of control and surrender, was a heady experience. The silken ties that bound us, the blindfolds that heightened the senses, added a layer of tantalizing mystery to our encounters. I loved the strength in Lydia's surrender, the trust implicit in our shared exploration of limits and boundaries. It felt like a dance, choreographed to perfection in the dimmed lights of our bedroom. Swinging parties were our special treat. There was an exhilarating thrill in the unexpected, in the shared glances, the stolen touches, the anticipation of what was to come. I vividly remember the first time we swapped partners. There was Lydia, across the room, her laughter ringing out above the music, her eyes twinkling with mischief and excitement. I took immense pleasure in her pleasure, the voyeuristic thrill of watching her experience ecstasy in another's arms. Our forays into roleplay added an element of delightful whimsy. Lydia, in her various guises, was a sight to behold. Whether she was the sultry siren, the innocent maiden, or the dominant mistress, I was captivated. And to see her throw herself into each role, her enthusiasm, her surrender to the character, was as intoxicating as the best champagne. Yet, it was in the quieter moments that I started to notice the changes. The subtle shift in her laughter, the elusive shadow that passed over her eyes. One evening, after a particularly exciting swinging party, as we lay in our bed, exhausted yet content, I caught a glimpse of it, a flash of what could only be described as melancholy, discontent. I couldn't put a finger on it. "Are you okay?" I'd asked, tracing a finger down her arm, the glow of the bedside lamp casting a warm light over her naked form. She'd turned to me then, a smile on her face, her eyes sparkling, but there was something, a fleeting sadness, a longing in her gaze that was there one moment and gone the next. "I'm fine," she'd said, the corners of her lips curling into a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Just tired." But was she really? I wasn't so sure. It was a question that niggled at the back of my mind, a persistent itch that I couldn't quite shake off. There was something, a whisper of something, that suggested that our shared erotic experiences, as thrilling as they were not quite enough for Lydia. I couldn't help but feel a twinge of unease, a prickling sense of impending change. Little did I know, change was coming, and it was coming in a form we could never have imagined. If you're enjoying this story, and would like to hear it from Lydia's perspective, you can listen to her side of the story by clicking in the link in the description.
This is chapter 2 of a 6-part short story. Please stay tuned for chapter 3.
Darkness had fallen over the bustling streets of London, yet inside the concert hall, a vibrancy of another kind took over as David Bowie's iconic melodies reverberated off the walls. Hello, I'm Adrian, and this is chapter 3 of our thrilling and convoluted journey. Tonight, let me take you back to a pivotal moment that would later haunt me, the night I unwittingly became the architect of my own heartbreak. As Lydia and I delved deeper into our open marriage, I introduced her to John, a man whose presence would cast a long shadow over our lives. Buckle up as we dive deep into the intoxicating mix of music, desire, and unforeseen consequences that awaited us. Chapter 3. How to cheat in an open relationship. London, with its pulsating nightlife, its cacophony of sounds, sights, and experiences that meld together into a sensory symphony. We found ourselves at a David Bowie tribute concert one such evening, its raw energy, an electrifying backdrop to our nocturnal escapades. As the sound of Ziggy Stardust echoed through the air, the atmosphere was charged with a sense of the unknown, of the unexpected. It was at this party, amidst the swelling music and the hypnotic sea of swaying bodies, that I introduced Lydia to John. John, a man as different from me as day from night. Where I was flamboyant, he was unassuming. Where I exuded charisma, he emanated an understated presence. I liked John. He was genuine, simple, a far cry from our usual circle of companions. But even in my wildest dreams, I couldn't have foreseen what was to unfold. Partner swapping isn't new to us, but introducing John into our intimate circle was. It was a game, a thrilling diversion from our usual routine. As the haunting notes of Space Oddity played, I watched as Lydia walked over to him. There was a certain elegance in her stride, a magnetic energy that drew people towards her. John was no exception. I watched as they talked, their bodies swaying to the rhythm of the music. Their conversation seemed casual, ordinary even. Yet there was something different. The way John looked at her, the way Lydia responded, it was unlike anything I had witnessed before. It was subtle, yes, but it was there. A connection, a spark that couldn't be denied. As the evening wore on, Lydia's laughter rang out above the music. She looked radiant, more alive than I'd seen her in a long time. John, for his part, seemed equally taken by her. A sense of satisfaction washed over me. I had introduced them, and they seemed to be hitting it off. My wife was happy, and that's all that mattered. Or so I thought. As the night gave way to dawn, as we made our way back home, I couldn't shake off a strange sensation, a niggling feeling of disquiet that I just couldn't put a finger on. Lydia was quiet on our drive back, lost in her thoughts. I wanted to ask her, to know what was on her mind. But I didn't. I chose silence, chose to bask in the quiet intimacy of our shared silence. Looking back now, I can't help but wonder, what if I had spoken up? What if I had asked her about her thoughts, her feelings about John? Could things have been different? I don't know, and maybe I'll never know. Because that night, under the pulsating lights of the concert, amidst the hypnotic music of David Bowie, something had changed. Something had begun. And unbeknownst to me, it was the beginning of an unforeseen chapter in our lives. During a partner-swapping game, Adrian introduces John, an average-looking man, to Lydia. Unaware of what's brewing, he narrates the vibrant backdrop of a David Bowie tribute concert and the beginning of an unforeseen chapter. This is my story, but Lydia has her own story, which you can listen to by clicking on the link, the description below.
This is chapter 3 of a 6-part short story. Please stay tuned for chapter 4.
In the comforting aroma of freshly ground coffee beans and the soft hum of our favourite local cafe, something felt amiss. Hey, it's Adrian again, and this is chapter 4 of our winding tale. Pull up a chair and lend me your ear, for I have a story to share that's bound to tug at your heartstrings. In this chapter, we peel back the layers of our seemingly perfect life, exposing the cracks that had begun to form in the foundation of our marriage. As Lydia's secret rendezvous unfolded, unbeknownst to me, our world was about to be turned upside down. Let's take a stroll down the lanes of our past against the backdrop of Netflix dramas and the chatter of coffee shops, and explore the silent betrayal that threatened to tear us apart. Chapter 4. Her silent betrayal, the connection she kept from me. Life is funny, isn't it? When you're caught in the whirlwind of pleasure and adventure, it's easy to ignore the quieter, subtler signs of change, and when that change is something you never envisioned, never thought could happen, it hits you all the harder. Lydia, my vivacious, fiery Lydia, was slipping away from me, bit by bit, like sand through clenched fingers. She was there, yet not there. We shared the same bed, attended the same parties, laughed at the same Netflix shows, but something had shifted, an invisible chasm that kept widening. I remember binge-watching Stranger Things, one of our favorite pastimes. The allure of the alternate universe, the monster-riddled upside down, fascinated us. It was escapism at its finest, yet it became a mirror to our reality, a reflection of the parallel life Lydia was leading, one I was clueless about. Our favourite coffee shop at the corner of our street was another constant in our lives. Its familiar ambience, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, the friendly banter with the barista. It felt like a sanctuary, a snapshot of our lives, frozen in time. But as Lydia's laughter echoed a little less, as her smiles became a touch forced, I couldn't shake off a feeling of impending doom. I tried to maintain our vibrant lifestyle, parties, movies, dining out, adventure sports, travelling, everything we enjoyed doing. I hoped that in the thrill of the moment, in the joy of shared experiences, we could reclaim what was fading. Maybe, just maybe, I could halt her retreat. But her gaze was elsewhere. Her eyes, those bewitching green eyes that sparkled every time she laughed, had a far-off look. There was a yearning, a secret wish that lurked in her gaze, and it tore at me, each time she looked at me but didn't truly see me. Each time her fingers touched mine but didn't really feel me. I was lost in the maze of her growing silence, her unspoken words. I was caught in the crossfire of fear and denial. Fear of losing her, denial that I already was. So I masked my growing anxiety with a smile, a laugh, a passionate kiss. I kept up the charade, hoping that the facade of our once perfect life would eventually become our reality. As the days turned into weeks, as the weeks slipped into months, as the Netflix dramas came and went, as our coffee shop conversations dwindled, I couldn't shake off the gnawing suspicion, the suspicion that she was drifting towards someone else. And that hurt. It hurt more than I could ever imagine. It was a silent betrayal, a connection she had kept from me. And so, I found myself at a crossroads. My heart aching with an unfamiliar pain, my mind plagued with unvoiced questions. The woman I loved, the woman I shared my life, my dreams, my desires with, was slipping away. And I was helpless. London, with its vibrant pulse, its eclectic energy, was witness to a silent heartbreak, a heartbreak that was mine alone. And in its bustling streets, under the canopy of its starlit sky, in the solitude of our shared bed, I found myself asking one question. Where did we go wrong? Want to hear Lydia's side of the story? Click on the link in the description.
This is chapter 4 of a 6-part short story. Please stay tuned for chapter 5.
Have you ever felt the ground give way beneath your feet? The solid earth you've always known suddenly turning to quicksand? Welcome back. I'm Adrian, and this is chapter 5 of our unfiltered journey through the highs and lows of love and lust. In this chapter, as the world grappled with the COVID-19 crisis, our personal world was facing its own pandemic of sorts. The walls seemed to be closing in as Lydia's distance grew, and I found myself standing at a crossroads with our relationship hanging in the balance. Join me as we delve into the depths of uncertainty and fear, where the once clear lines between right and wrong blur, and the reality of potentially losing my beloved wife becomes all too real. This is our story, laid bare for all to see as we navigate the stormy seas of love in a time of global chaos. Chapter 5. When an open relationship goes wrong. As 2020 unfolded into a catastrophe of unforeseen scale, the world came to a standstill. The COVID-19 pandemic had ravaged the globe, snatching away the very essence of human connection. The bustling city of London, a hub of culture and diversity, had morphed into a ghost town. Like the rest of the world, we were confined within the walls of our home, a prison of fear and uncertainty. The pandemic had thrown a curveball, disrupting the rhythm of our lives, our hedonistic lifestyle. The once bustling nightlife was replaced by empty streets, silence replacing the thumping beats of our favorite clubs. And in the midst of this global upheaval, my personal world was crumbling too. Our shared confinement brought Lydia's distance into sharper focus. I could no longer escape it, bury it under our external adventures. There was no hustle of our city life to distract me, no parties, no group outings, no flirtations with others to turn a blind eye to the cold reality. Lydia was slipping away from me. Her laughter, once a melodic sound that echoed through our house, had dulled. Her eyes held a quiet sadness, a lingering uncertainty that mirrored the world outside. Her touches were mechanical, her kisses bereft of the passion we once reveled in. My carefree, adventurous spirit was slowly turning into a contemplative, introspective man, a man who was grappling with the grim reality of his failing marriage. Every glance at Lydia brought a wave of insecurities, the fear of losing her becoming an ever-persistent nightmare. Our conversations, once filled with flirtatious banter, mutual teasing and passionate discussions, had dwindled to curt, functional dialogues. Meals were eaten in silence, and nights were spent in hushed whispers, a haunting melody of growing emptiness. I spent countless hours reminiscing about the past, about the life we had built together. Our adventures in the world of pleasure, our shared experiences, our open relationship that we once proudly flaunted now seemed like a distant dream. I found myself questioning the very foundations of our relationship, the principles we had so passionately upheld. Had our open relationship opened a Pandora's box of emotional turmoil? Was our pursuit of pleasure blinding us to the emotional depth that lay underneath? Did our shared partners, our erotic adventures, our steamy nights pull us away from each other instead of binding us together? Every day, every silent meal, every cold night brought a torrent of self-doubt and regret. I was losing my wife, my partner, my love. Our open relationship, once a symbol of our shared joy and exploration, had turned into a silent battleground. As the world was grappling with the pandemic, a battle of another kind was brewing within me. The fear of losing Lydia, the pain of her silent betrayal, the regret of my past choices. It was a tsunami of emotions that threatened to drown me. As the city of London braced itself against the deadly virus, I found myself grappling with an infection of a different kind, an infection that was slowly gnawing at my heart, tearing apart the fabric of my life. The uncertainty of our future, the pain of our present. It was a chapter of our lives I never envisioned. A chapter where an open relationship had gone horribly wrong. If you're enjoying this story and would like to hear Lydia's side, you can listen to that by clicking on the link in the description below.
This is chapter 5 of a 6-part short story. Please stay tuned for chapter 6, the final chapter.
From the very first note of "Don't look back" in anger that filled our living room, I knew something monumental was about to unfold. Hello, I'm Adrian, and welcome to the final chapter of our raw and unfiltered journey. Chapter 6, titled Chasing Casual Sex. When I should have been chasing my wife, captures the moment that has defined our relationship. In the face of a global pandemic, amidst the deafening silence of the lockdown, I found myself standing at the crossroads of our marriage. A confession, a revelation, and a glimmer of hope all collide as Lydia opens up about her emotional journey and the missing piece in our hedonistic lifestyle. Dive with me into the depths of our story as we explore whether love, intimacy, and connection can triumph over the temptation of the flesh. This is our tale, raw, unfiltered, and laid bare for all to see. Chapter 6. Chasing Casual Sex When I Should Have Been Chasing My Wife. In the eerie silence of the nationwide lockdown, I found myself engulfed in an unsettling reality. Our bustling cityscape had been replaced by the haunting quietness, the fervent drumming of London's heartbeat lost in the hush. As days blurred into weeks, I spent my hours in silent contemplation, reflecting on our fading relationship, Lydia's distant demeanour, the woman I loved slipping away into an abyss I couldn't comprehend. And then it happened, Lydia confessed. Her voice was but a soft whisper, barely audible above the sound of an online Oasis concert playing in the backdrop. "Don't look back in anger," echoed through the speakers, a bitter irony that twisted my insides. She was recounting her emotional journey, her newfound connection with John, the depth they had discovered in their sex life, the spark that was missing in ours. The world as I knew it shattered in that moment, and the confession felt like a punch in the gut, an excruciating realization that I had failed to see. That I had been too wrapped up in our shared exploration of pleasure, of sexual fantasies, that I had missed the undercurrents of her discontent, her need for emotional connection. Lydia's confession stung, but it also brought a strange clarity. I had been chasing casual sex, basking in the thrill of our open relationship when I should have been chasing my wife, trying to understand her needs, her desires. I had focused on the carnal pleasures while neglecting the emotional depth, the intimate connection that she yearned for. Her confession left me reeling, yet amidst the chaos of my emotions, a glimmer of hope persisted. Hope that this confession was not the end, but a beginning. A chance to mend our frayed ties, to bring back the love that was slipping away. Could I fulfill Lydia's needs? Could I step out of my hedonistic mindset and into a more emotionally connected role? Could I bring back the spark in our sex life, the spark that she had discovered with John? Her confession had forced me to reassess our relationship, our choices. I'd always thought of our open relationship as a thrilling ride, a ticket to an endless carnival of pleasures. But had I been wrong? Had I been so enamored with the excitement, the thrill, that I had failed to see the chasm growing between us? As the powerful chords of Oasis continued to reverberate through the room, I found myself at a crossroads. One path led to the continuation of our past lifestyle, a hedonistic pursuit of pleasure, devoid of emotional depth. The other, a journey towards understanding, emotional connection, and the rediscovery of our love. The future of our relationship hung in the balance. But as I looked at Lydia, her eyes filled with a strange mixture of hope and apprehension, I knew what I had to do. It was time to chase my wife, not the casual sex. It was time to bridge the gap, to fight for our love, to navigate the labyrinth of emotions and find our way back to each other. It was a gamble, a challenging path fraught with uncertainties. But I was willing to bet everything for a chance at real romantic love, for a chance to make things right, for Lydia, for us. As the nationwide lockdown continued to confine us within our home, a journey of a different kind was about to begin. A journey of introspection, of understanding, of rediscovery. The journey of a man who had chased casual sex when he should have been chasing his wife. And that journey was about to begin. If you have enjoyed this story and wondered how Lydia might have been feeling, you can listen to her side of the story by clicking in the link in the description.
This is Chapter 6, the final chapter of a 6-part short story. If you have enjoyed this story and would like to hear other stories of love, romance, heartache, cheating and betrayal, why not subscribe to the Romance Diaries on YouTube? And if you hit the little notification bell at the same time, we can let you know every time we bring out a new story. If you would like to experience your own real-life romance, why not click on one of our sponsors in the description below?